Hello, guys. Welcome to Velocity Academy podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Manpreet from Bobble Digital.
Thanks for having me, Carl. Nice to meet everyone. I hope everyone's doing well and keeping safe during this pandemic.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I was getting a bit of feedback then. So today's podcast, we're going to be looking at digital marketing as a whole in 2021. Looking at some important topics on business-to-business marketing, B2C as well. We'll get into it, Manny. Could you give us a bit of a background on yourself before we get into like the nitty-gritty?
Yeah, thanks. My background has been in digital marketing ever since university, from my degree to my master's. I was then fortunate enough to obviously work for Dentsu Aegis Group, part of the Cara team, working on brands like Jet2, Seabucks Crisps, etc., supporting on some small elements, some like Asda. So I spent a few years there before moving on to Intermarketing, which became an integrated agency and the number one integrated agency in the UK at the time. Then working with brands like Adidas, PhD Nutrition, more retail focused, but also wider elements like Bupa Global. So I was exposed to a number of, I've been quite fortunate and lucky in my career to be exposed to some well-established agencies around the world, some well-established brands around the world, not just nationally, but internationally, but also at local level. And from that, I'll be completely transparent. My kidneys failed in 2017, and it gave me the drive and purpose to set up Bobble Digital. And that was in 2017 of May when we went live. It was incorporated in 2016 and will be going ever since. I'd like to add, I've had a transplant and I'm doing extremely well.
Fantastic news. So, Manny, just on that subject. So, what was your entry role when you got into digital marketing? Was you like a digital marketing exec, or was it like an intern?
I was a media assistant at Cara. So my role was predominantly buying digital media space through, display, before I was then introduced to channels like Google and PPC and social media, specifically stuff like analytics. So it was my responsibility to, let's say, for example, with Jet2, it was working with Skyscanner and TripAdvisor and buying the ad space on there. So if you ever got targeted by Jet2 ads years ago on the right because you were looking for holidays to, Germany, I do apologize at that time. That was me. But also working with key publications and other media suppliers. So I have, publications like, your Daily Mail, your Telegraphs, etc. But also working with, media businesses and tech out there like Rocket Fuel, through to other kind of suppliers where we would look to adapt their tech and technology to feature and get more experience through display.
Yeah, cool. And would you say you've always had an interest in digital marketing from being a young age, or is it something that you sort of fell into and then sort of found a passion when you got into it a little bit?
I always knew I wanted to do marketing because it was the course I did best in when I did my 12 A-level, business studies. And I was lucky enough during university, despite recession, to do a summer placement at 26 Digital. And that was my first insight into agency world, and I loved it. And I was like, this is what I want. I want to be, running my own agency one day, build my experience, and this is where I want to be. And thankfully, 10 years later, that's where I am now.
Cool. So you're at Bobble Digital now. Your company you've formed. So you've made that dream happen. Could you give us a bit of a background on Bobble Digital? Just a quick pitch, really, about what you guys do, where you started, and what your sort of goals are for this year and sort of next few years ahead.
Yeah, so Bobble Digital is a digital media agency. Obviously, we're based in Leeds, but we work with international, national, and local businesses. We focus on 6 key services. So the first and most important being strategy. So what we do is we help our clients and businesses understand how their audiences are consuming media online, whether that's through mobile or devices, through social. We have real insight data to understand consumers' media patterns and behavior and consumption, which helps us then create a shopping list of which channels will be most effective and getting rid of all the guesswork. We focus on 4 key channels predominantly. So that's been pay-per-click across Google and Bing, search engine optimization, paid social media across, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok ads, and then video advertising. So that encompasses more like YouTube display, as well as TV or digital, out of home, video screens. And then the final strand of what we do is analytics. So it's all good doing the strategy and having all these channels, but we have our own custom reporting, which brings it all into, all these channels into one reporting, so clients can see what's working, what's not working, where is revenue coming from, where is traffic coming from, how are those customers going through the purchase funnel, in real time data as well for clients. So they're the 6 key elements that we focus on.
That's great. Just before we get into the bulk of the sort of the questions and a bit of the interview, for the guys that are watching at home, if you could drop us a like and share, and possibly subscribe, just to obviously help with the algorithms and push the podcast out. This podcast will be available to watch afterwards anyway. So if you do miss anything, then you can watch it afterwards. Also, if you've got any questions throughout this podcast, if you want to ask Manny anything or myself, just drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. So yeah, that's great, Manny. We discussed this beforehand, but what is your team over at Bobble Digital? Could you give us a bit of a background on?
Yeah, our team is, built of all levels of disciplines and experience. I mean, our head of PPC is ex-Google. Our head of SEO, has over 20 years experience working client and agency side. We have a lot of executives in our team as well. Our team's really grown, especially over the last 6 months. We took a big hit with the pandemic. Everyone went into recession format and mindset. And unfortunately, the first place businesses cut back, especially with the businesses we're dealing with, was let's cut back the marketing spend, which obviously has an impact on us because we manage that marketing spend in the digital space.
Yeah.
But thankfully, with the recovery and us coming out of the first lockdown, we were able to really, go big or go home kind of approach with the agency, and really able to onboard a significant number of new clients in the last 6 months alone, which is now going to give us our strongest year in 2021, and we'll triple our revenue this year against last year. So, and we're continuing to hire and grow our team, throughout the year. So we're all back on path to where we were pre-COVID to, but it's taken us a year to kind of get there as a result. But yeah, we're a small team based in Leeds, but hopefully in the next 3-4 years, we can expand that to a team from nearly 10 up to 20, 25, even more, and start looking at other locations outside of Leeds where we can operate with some of our international clients.
Nice. Thank you for your introduction on Bobble Digital and yourself. So now we're going to get into some more related to sort of digital marketing, some bite-sized bits that people can take away and maybe implement in their marketing strategy. Some sort of good insights from yourself. So we do have sort of students watching that are studying digital marketing, that are new to digital marketing. So to somebody new to digital marketing as a whole, what is it and what's the objective?
So digital marketing is essentially any form of marketing that exists online. So not your traditional methods like newspaper or out of home. If it's online, it's classed as digital marketing, essentially. The core objective of it is that it helps businesses reach larger audiences and be more targeted than what they'd be able to achieve in traditional methods. Consider when you're driving or you're walking, you see an ad at a bus stop or at the side of a bus or a big billboard. That's very, broad reach. You're going to hit a lot of customers. So if you're, selling, sportswear, it's only going to hit a certain amount of particular audience out of all those cars that are going to drive by. Whereas the benefit and the objective of digital marketing is to, focus on who your ideal customers are and just focus your attention to them, because everybody else is relevant. They're who you want to speak to. They're those who are going to consume your brand. They're the type of businesses, if it's B2B, you want to work with. So yeah, the core objective is to, be more specific with the audience and customers, but it gives you much more scale. The money you spend on digital marketing compared to an out-of-home campaign can give you an international campaign. So you could run ads in the UK and as well as, India or China or Australia or the US, whilst you're sat here in the UK.
Yeah. What I find amazing about digital is that People are in front of the phones all the time. It's like having a billboard there constantly. People on social media scrolling throughout the day, several hours throughout the day, and it's just a great way to get your brand out there, isn't it? And as well, like you said just then, with display advertising and print advertising, you sort of go into a broad audience. Whereas when you go digital, when you look at Facebook ads, for example, like the amount of the detail you could go into selecting an audience and their interests and everything like that. So yeah, that's a good sort of introduction to digital marketing. Could you give us a bit of an explanation of your approach to digital marketing and how you, when you're building campaigns out and when you're sort of building strategy, what sort of best practices and methodologies do you sort of use? Because there's different frameworks out there, isn't there, to do digital marketing? But how do you guys approach that?
We create our own framework and our own methodology. So for all the experience of working with international agencies, I notice a key pattern. So we focus on what is now, described as agile marketing. Agile marketing is kind of like the norm. Most businesses probably do it and they don't even realize, but we are positioned as an agile digital marketing agency.
Yeah.
And from that, we have our methodology, which is the PAIR system, PIER. So P stands for plan. So planning is everything to do with strategy. So obviously we tap into data from like Global Web Index, which gives us all these insights. So we have the latest data on consumers' online, digital habits up to Q4 2020. So the latest data in real time. So we know how much time they're spending. So what we do is in the planning stage, we understand, right, where is this brand? Who are the competitors that support that brand and where are they positioned online from a competitive position? Who are the ideal customers, breaking them down to different segments, and then understanding, right, what are their media consumptions behaviors online? Do they spend more time on LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Are they consuming video content when they're on Facebook? What are they doing? That gives us an idea of how we approach them and what channels we approach them, to kind of push those brands out. And then we, break them down into different channels of the shopping list as a priority based on what that's going to be. And then because we're agile, it comes to I, which is implement. So we implement that strategy. So we know which channels to do, and what it is essentially is, you're not shooting an hour in the dark. We eliminate any guesswork in terms of which channels will come up to us. So a client comes up to us and says, we want to do PPC advertising. We're like, actually, we'll tell you if you need to be doing PPC advertising, because we need to understand your business, your objective, who your competitors are, and who your ideal customers are, and if they are spending time on Google, first and foremost. Then it comes to E, evaluation. This is where data and analytics is everything. Understanding what works. And whilst we're implementing that strategy, I and E kind of overlaps. So because we're agile, what will happen is we might start a month's campaign with budget split evenly between, let's say, Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. But by the end of the month, we probably spent more on Instagram because we've got a better ROI based on the objectives we set from the start. So that's what we mean by being agile, understanding which platforms affect different stages of that purchase funnel and what is the attribution towards that. And then we repeat the cycle with the learnings we do. So the next month, we've got the budget. It might be the same again, but we know how better to distribute it because we've understood the consumer better. We've understood their purchase intent better. We've understood the whole journey through the website and their relationship with the brand, that we're able to be more reactive and get that cost per acquisition or cost per lead, whatever the KPI is, down, and it's a downward trending line, and it keeps going down until eventually it plateaus and we can't get it down further.
Cool. So you sort of work a cycle. So you plan, implement, and then monitor, the success. How often do you sort of run that cycle? Is it like you do that for clients on a weekly or monthly, or?
It's monthly. A lot of channels, some channels take time to be able to see results and data, but every month we're just going through that peer cycle constantly. It's a core methodology that we use, but every client, in terms of what we do, in terms of channels, the data that comes out of it, the objective is completely different, but the overarching model and methodology is always the same.
Yeah, cool. And just on your approach then, so you guys have got your own methodology for digital marketing. What would you say makes you as an agency stand out from other agencies then, from your competitors?
I think it's our model. No one actually uses our model because I created this model based on my experience. It sounds simple, but it's effective, and it's one that will continue to evolve over time. So we actually implement our own methodology, and by being agile, we're actually differently positioned to most other agencies out there. One thing I kind of really, advocate is my team's experience and the brands and the insights they bring. That's experience and insight, and having dealt with a lot of different clients and sectors helps you understand and be more reactive to client problems and issues, be able to deal with them in a more effective way, but also come up with creative ways to find new solutions to new problems or products to sell. But it's all about the results. That's what separates us. It's our methodology that delivers results and that increased in growth. And it's the level of data analysis that we go into that most other agencies probably don't, well, we don't share, but probably aren't doing what we're doing.
Yeah, cool. Nice one. So next question is, where do you see the future of SEO?
It's taken a big divert since the pandemic. One thing I'd say is, I don't know if anyone knows who the ex-CEO of Google was, but it was Eric Schmidt. And back in 2016, and it's quite important immensely, he's talked about how the internet is becoming a place where false information is thriving. And essentially, the internet is becoming what we call a cesspool. And I'll talk about in a second in terms of how Google going to tackle that. He talked about how basically brands were becoming signals whether or not content can be trusted. And in his own words, I've just got it here, he goes, brands are the solution, not the problem. Brands are how you sort out the cesspool. So in other words, if you want to do well in the long run in terms of SEO, you have to build a brand. So when you look at Google and you look at who's dominating, it's big brands. Yes, they have more budget to focus on. So obviously that gives them a competitive advantage. But when you're looking at stuff like Huffington Post through to Wikipedia and any other new articles, the list goes on, big brands dominate. And Google introduced a couple of years ago now, EAT, so the EAT guidelines. So EAT stands for effectiveness, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Sorry, expertise, authority, trustworthiness. So it's all about quality over content, over quantity in terms of content. It's not just getting blog posts out there for the sake of getting a blog post out there. It's writing by giving, valuable, trustworthy expertise, to the person who's reading it. And that's what Google prioritizes. In terms of moving forward, a trend that we've noticed with our clients, and we shared this just a few weeks back, our latest bite size, was longer form SEO content is doing better than shorter form. We're talking significant. We're talking about anything around about between 1,500 up to 3,000 words is better than anything that's like 6 to 1,000 word content, because consumers are spending more time online, they're reading more, they're learning more at this moment in time. So longer form content that follows a key structure is key. In terms of the future of SEO, it is going to be voice. I'm just going to say the first part of it, Alex, and not the last bit, because my device will go off in my room. But Amazon's devices, Google Home's devices, voice search is key to the future. And that's where the next trend is going for, including what we do with our mobile devices. We use Siri, if you're, got an Android or Microsoft, you're using Cortana. If you've got a Mac, if you've got, a HP or a Windows laptop, you've got, Cortana on your laptop to do search. So voice search is going to become the future, and optimizing your SEO for voice search is going to be key, because unlike the Google platform itself, where you type it in on your mobile and you see a number of responses, it's all about who gets that position 0, as we call it, the number one spot. So it's going to become very, very, very competitive as voice search, grows and becomes the norm as we start searching for, more elements. It's still in its infancy, but it is growing year on year.
Yeah, cool. And how important would you say, obviously link building used to be a massive factor in terms of ranking positions for like domain authority and stuff like that. Is that still the case? Is link building still the forefront of the SEO practice offsite? And if a brand, if let's say a digital marketer was working on a sort of a new brand that doesn't have much establishment in terms of how long the domain's been out there and registered, what is the best way, like, you know, how can they compete with these big boys that have been out there for a long time? They've had a lot of links over the years. You know, what could they be doing to maybe try, you know, compete with these brands? Is there a chance? Or
this is why the guidelines, and if you just type in EAT into, you know, Google and everyone searches for it now, you'll see a 100+ page document about it. That's why that was introduced, because people were gaming the system with Google and just buying links.
yeah,
It's all about, you know, trustworthiness, expertise. Google ranks that over just any kind of link. So it's all about quality over quantity with links. Links are still a key part of SEO, and will be, but as we go along and Google keeps changing and you know, evolving its algorithm, then, you know, we have to change with the times. But link building is key even for small businesses, because if you're a small local businesses, then you need to be focused on localized SEO and looking at building links with local publications. Let's say we're Leeds, so Yorkshire, you know, Evening Post would be a good one to build a link with. You know, a local blogger who has, you know, a few thousand, you know, users a day, or even, you know, tens of thousands of users that visit that blog site or element, anything that's relevant to your business, is someone to build a relationship with. Social links as well, like key if you're doing partnerships. So links are still good and you can still compete, but SEO is a long game, not a short game. You know, unfortunately, businesses that have been doing this for a long time are hard to catch up, especially those that have the budget and resource to continue investing into it. What I've noticed over the last 12 months is our clients that continue with SEO increase their market share significantly. Those clients that reduce their SEO have struggled to compete, whilst other competitors then look at opportunity to increase market share. So anything can change as the economic environment changes around us. So, you know, we work with a client interface, and although they're known as the, you know, they're the largest, you know, luxury towel and carpet towel provider in the world, they weren't seen like that online, but they doubled down during the lockdown, and now they're number one online in terms of their visibility compared to their competitors.
yeah,
So it's, sometimes you can take advantage of the economic, you know, platform against your competitors. So, you know, it really depends on, you know, how much time and resource you put into it, how big your business is. If you're, you know, if you're a local, you know, window company that supplies local, you know, double glazing, are you going to really compete with the national chains? Is that going to be relevant for you? Is it important for you to invest that level budget, or should you be focused on the catchment area you can service as a business? So, you know, it's not about comparing yourself to other businesses and competitors. It depends on how big the business is and, you know, how much budget you have and what your priority and objective is as a company. Because if you're then doing a national campaign, but you're only based in Leeds, can you go and fit a double glazing down in London because you've done such a large SEO campaign? No, it's just lost business.
yeah. Just on that subject then of local SEO, for those smaller businesses, could you give like maybe one tip that they could implement now to work on their local SEO?
There's not just one tip for local SEO that I can just give that. I'd say the first thing as a priority is you Google My Business page. If you haven't set up your Google My Business page and filled in all the elements that Google prompts you up in terms of their, you know, tutorial wizard to get you on there, you need to be doing that as a priority. The next thing you need to be looking at, focusing on more localized keywords to get yourself to rank for. And actually going on to something like Keyword Planner within Google, looking at Google Trends as a tool to look at how many people are searching for, SEO. If you type in now SEO agency leads or SEO company leads, we're in the top 3, maybe top 4 positions. If you type in SEO agency UK, we're not, because we're Leeds based and we focus on our localized SEO. So, you know, by focusing on, you know, the fact that we're in Leeds, our website, our elements, the content on our site, making it easier to crawl, improving our site speed, making sure it's mobile optimized. These are the elements all together that as a small business, you know, focus on your website, focus on your content, focus on localized keywords, make sure your Google My Business is in place, make sure you get your Google Analytics linked to your site so you can see what search terms people are searching for locally to pay for, so you can start creating new content around that. Also, focus on answering questions that your customers may have. Don't just put content out there for the sake of putting content out there. Try and get under the skin of your customers and what questions they would have about your product or services and answer them, because that's what most people are doing on Google. They're looking for answers. So whoever has the best answer is more likely to convert that customer.
Yeah. Nice one. So how effective is blogging in 2021? Because obviously a lot of companies now are focusing on social media as their digital marketing strategy, putting content out on there. But obviously we have to not forget about blogging. So do you have any sort of stats on how effective it is for SEO and content in general, and sort of engagement with visitors to the website?
Yeah, I was actually speaking to one of my contacts at HubSpot, and they shared a stat with me from 2019, so it's still quite relevant. Remember, we're still early 2021, so stats for 2020 normally come out towards the end of Q1. And he was like, marketers who prioritize blogging received 13 times more ROI than companies that did not in 2019. And this is a stat from HubSpot.
Yeah.
So, just consider that. How effective is blogging? Extremely effective. That doesn't mean I'm saying go out and start blogging every day. I mean, we were blogging every week. We now changed our strategy to blog twice a week and focus on longer tail content. So as I mentioned earlier, long form content is working better than short term content, and we're noticing that with our clients. So we're implementing that as part of our own SEO strategy as an agency. So instead of doing 4 blogs a month, we're doing 1 every 2 weeks. And we're increasing the length of the content and answering more and giving more detail. One thing that's going to really help in terms of how effective blogging is supporting that with social posts and driving people to it and building, relationships with publications out there. Video content is a good way to do that. So we've been creating a lot of video content to talk about some of the topics we're sharing as part of our blog for that couple of weeks. So we're using stuff like stories and stuff to drive people to it and increase its, visibility and ranking and how many users go to that landing page in particular. But extremely effective it's going to be in 2021. So just consider that stat, 13 times ROI for those that prioritize blogging in 2019 than the companies that didn't. That is a crazy stat.
Yeah, that's an outstanding stat, to be fair. Yeah, it is. Cool. So a hot topic at the moment is TikTok, and I've seen a lot of people talking about that on LinkedIn. I've seen TikTok actually advertising on LinkedIn as well under their TikTok for Business. So just for the people that are watching, how could brands start to utilize TikTok that are in B2B environments and maybe not a B2C? Is it a platform they can be using? Is it going to be effective in B2B environments? Or
if you're going to focus on awareness and engagement, then yes, you can use TikTok. Just consider that in 2020, of the 10 of the 12 months last year, the highest downloaded app per month was TikTok. There was 2 exceptions to this: Zoom when we all went into lockdown, and the update to WhatsApp. So for every other month in 2020, TikTok was the highest downloaded app per month. So it's not just the younger generation. And I lose hours, unfortunately. I'm going to admit I lose hours to TikTok, and it's not conductive to my work at times. And I get sent links for TikTok, but it is very consumer B2C focused. But I have seen other people on LinkedIn within my connections that are using TikTok to support. I've seen other agencies do it to create more funny video contents on trends to showcase their engagement. If you're going to use it as a B2B organization, focus on awareness and engagement, because the organic reach is fantastic with TikTok right now. Just consider where Facebook was a few years ago with organic reach, but now it's dead. So if you're going to get into TikTok, get in now and maximize that organic reach, but don't focus on selling your business. Focus on raising awareness and being on trend with what is going on within TikTok and creating content that, people would like. If you want to create followers and create a following, you've got to create funny and engaging content. And it's all about creating recognition and, about your brand, and that's it. Eventually that will filter out to potential leads and business for you. But your priority has to be all about creating engaging and awareness with the content on TikTok right now.
Yeah, I seen like a stat on TikTok as well about the amount of video content that's been sort of engaged with compared to Facebook and Instagram. and the levels of engagement on TikTok compared to them channels are amazing. You know, the results back from that. Something that I tend to personally, I'm not on TikTok, but I've seen clips and stuff what people share onto like Facebook, for example, and things that I found interesting on like Instagram Live and Instagram TV is like behind the scenes of people actually doing their job and giving a bit of insight into the company and people that work within the company and sort of, you know, doing little snippets of people doing day-to-day jobs. So that may be like something, you know, businesses can focus on in terms of their TikTok strategy, is just giving a bit of insight of what they do in their day-to-day job and, you know, what the company's about, their sort of their values and just, it's sort of like humanizing the brand, isn't it? Then it's not, you know, you're not just a corporate face. You've got real people behind the brand, and
like you just said, it's companies showing, you know, a great workplace. You know, part of companies is to push their brand out to attract the best talent as well. It's not just about attracting customers and businesses. It's about attracting the best talent out there. I know an agency, Tree Media, that did something really cool, which was like, you know, Andy's in, and all the employees just then fell down like toys. And I thought it was quite funny and cool. But it's just kind of showing that it's a great place to work and kind of make it appealing to people out there. Because when you're in the digital field, you want to attract the best talent there is, and the best talent you can get, will help you, you know, come up with new solutions and innovative ideas in front of clients based on their wealth of experience. So it can also be used to showcase, like you said, you know, and then, you know, a company's more internal side that we don't normally get to see except for the outface in terms of what actually goes on.
Yeah. So on the subject of like social channels, it's great putting out content in there, you know, investing time in creating content. But what would the best way of measuring that return? You know, you're putting hours into social media, you're creating content, which is taking a lot of time and resource. What's a way that that businesses that maybe are new to digital marketing can implement that will allow them to track a return on their investment on social media?
That is probably the hardest question that I've read, because what is the best way to measure return on social media? First of all, it depends on the objective. What are you trying to achieve? Because there's so many, when you go into platforms like Facebook Business Manager, there's so many different ad campaigns that you could run. You could look at driving page likes. You could look at driving engagement with video. You can look at driving traffic to site. You can focus on conversions. You can focus on lead generation, so where people complete a form. You know, so it really depends on what the objective is for that campaign. If that campaign's around, you know, awareness, then it's all about engagements, comments, likes, shares, followers. If that, you know, campaign's all about, actually, if you're a B2C company and it's selling product, then yes, it comes down to conversions. How many people did you get to site? How many of them did add it to basket? How many of them then purchased? And what's the value of that? So you can do the full purchase value tracking within Facebook. So it really depends on and you know, that's Facebook and Instagram. It's different for LinkedIn. It's different for Twitter. It's different for TikTok. It's different for Snapchat. It's different for Pinterest. It's different for YouTube. So when you consider what's the best way to measure the return on social media, it really depends on so many different elements of what that business is doing. I would say use the in-platform data based on the objective you've set, to have a look at it and look at the benchmarks within there. You can just Google some of the benchmarks that are out there in terms of click-through rates, what you can achieve, etc. by platform. Google Analytics is key. Maybe create what I call UTM URLs to be able to track, you know, what active traffic was coming to your website from different social channels, so you can see within Google Analytics what impact your social media is having on your overall business effectiveness. You could even create your own attribution model or work with third parties like Seismic or, you know, DoubleClick or Analytics 360, depending on how big your budget is to do that. But, you know, if you're a business and it's, you know, it's clients, then you want to look at lead generation and how many leads were generated. If you're, you know, you focus on customers and you B2C, then it's revenue and sales. That's what it comes down to with most clients that we work with. It's how many leads we generated, how many they turn into businesses. And then the cost per acquisition of that lead, or how many customers are we driving to the site, how many are buying, and what was the revenue value against spend.
Yeah, just on the UTM that you mentioned, we use that at Velocity to track like links and conversions. So yeah, it's important if anyone's sort of watching and wondering how they can sort of track social media engagement, is to first of all to make sure that you have conversion tracking installed on the website, so you can see actually how many people are converting, and then like Manny said, utilize UTM tracking so that data gets published back into analytics. Then so you can then see which campaigns converted what. That's great, Manny. Thank you for that. How effective is LinkedIn for B2B marketing? I know it's
I hate LinkedIn.
Really?
There's two sides of LinkedIn. There's the organic LinkedIn side, and then you got the paid LinkedIn side. And the reason why I hate LinkedIn is because if you can get your strategy right organically, and it takes time and resource, a bit like SEO, you can go big and you can go viral and you can make a lot of money, and it's extremely effective. It's like I said earlier, it's where Facebook was with terms of organic reach. The paid side of it is what really annoys me with LinkedIn, because I'm going to be honest with you, it's too expensive for what it is. In terms of, I understand the audience is much more, is higher quality, but we've done split tests and seen better results and better ROI from a B2B perspective by putting ads on Facebook compared to LinkedIn. And we have contacts on LinkedIn, and I've shared them the data and I've told them. And LinkedIn is all meant to be about quality. The issue with LinkedIn is, and where a lot of businesses, when they come to us, talk about LinkedIn struggle, is they don't realize that the average cost per lead is anything between 60 and £100 if you're B2B. So if you're willing to pay that, then yes, lead generation works quite well from a paid perspective. They say the quality of a lead through LinkedIn is better than Facebook, whereas on Facebook you might achieve a £10 cost per lead, but for every 10, maybe one is going to be quality. Yeah. Whereas for every 5 on LinkedIn, 2 or 3 are going to be quality. So the percentage and difference is much more clearer, but you have to spend more. The cost per click is higher than some keywords you bid from PPC. So you could, run ads and spend £100, but it might cost you £7 to achieve a click through to your website. And I think that's just too expensive for us, especially local SME and small businesses. I think they're kind of priced out right now on LinkedIn, but there are tactics that you can use. So like we are working with some businesses where we're doing in-mails, and in-mails can be anything from 20 to 50p to drive out. But then it's all about volume. You might get 1,000 in-mails out. The average open rate is around about 45% to 55%. So you might get anything between 450 and 550 people open the actual in-mail, but then it's all about, everything's diluting as you're going down the funnel. So how many of them might fill in a lead form or go to your website? If they fill in a lead form, then it's down to your sales team to convert it. But what we find is, the open rate and the conversion rate for lead forms are good, but I kind of hate it because it's just too overpriced for what it is. And at this stage, I'd more than likely recommend my clients to focus on an organic strategy on LinkedIn, because it would be better use of the budget, and only put a small budget and some tactics around LinkedIn Campaign Manager. Because even with the stats I got from LinkedIn, they say anything between like a 25,000 to 200,000 audience size is great. Anything below that or above that is too much. So you have to really break down your audiences, and it's just too granular for what it is. The algorithm organically is great, ever changing. So, it's very effective depending on what you do. So my advice is focus on organic and maximize your growth, your followers, before the paid side catches up. Hopefully it becomes cheaper as more people use it and more users are on it, but it can be effective depending on which route you go down.
Yeah. Cool. So that covers LinkedIn as B2B. So on social media and sort of strategy, as we're talking about, what is the key for somebody like me, a business owner that's trying to implement marketing to their business? What would you say is the key to a successful content marketing strategy? Instead of just throwing out content there and creating whatever and sharing that out, what can people do to make sure they have a bit more success in terms of planning what content they're putting out?
Use channels like Quora. So Quora, you can look at what people are searching for around the terms you want to rank for. This is why I say Google Analytics is a free tool. Google Analytics is a free tool. Just make sure it's implemented on your website and look at search queries, because people will go to your site, have a look at what they were typing into Google, to get to your site. And then from that, start optimizing your content around, what attracts people to your website. What is it about your services or products that you sell that they're interested in? Again, I've talked about this already, the EAT guidelines, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Focus your strategy around, building quality content, long form content around that as part of your strategy. Have a look at, what services you offer. So at Bobble, we rank for SEO related terms, but locally we rank for PPC related terms organically, as well as, social media, video advertising, marketing strategy agency. And we create content around the services we offer. But I try to focus on offering education, insight, and value and answering questions, as opposed to just saying, hey, look, we do SEO. Look how cool we are, look at our results. It's no, here's what technical SEO means. Here's what you should be doing with the, guidelines. Here's what this means, because that's what businesses will be searching for and trying to get answers in terms of why their SEO is failing.
Yeah, that's something we've been focusing on at Velocity, is how can we provide value instead of trying to say, we offer apprenticeship courses, what value can we offer and what answers can we sort of answer in terms of people's questions. And yeah, that's the way we've been approaching things. So yeah, that's good. So we do have students that listen to this, and some that are wanting to get into digital marketing. So for someone new to digital marketing role, and you being an CEO of a digital marketing agency, what do you look for in terms of when you hire somebody new in terms of in your team? And that's the first question, and then we'll go on to the next one after that.
We are going through the hiring process, so this probably might make it easier. Yeah. I really don't care what your skill set is. It's about your personality and character, your willingness to learn and absorb information. For example, I had a candidate today, and I was asking them about smart shopping. So I don't know how to run a smart shopping campaign, but I understand the methodology. Then I asked her what she did to understand the methodology of Google, and then she taught me through how she knew X, Y, Z. So I already know that she's interested in it because she's gone out and done the research and looked into it, knowing that, okay, I haven't been able to put that into practice yet, but I know the fundamentals of how it works. So when I'm looking at someone to join the Bobble team, I'm looking at your personality, your character, and your desire to learn and develop and progress your career within digital. Digital has to be like it has to be your passion in some form, in terms of, showcase that to me. And, it doesn't matter where your skill set is, beginner or expertise, that's what I look for in candidates more than anything else, in terms of, can they fit within the Bobble team, which is, we focus on education as a sales tool. So if you're out there educating yourself, then it makes it easy for you to educate clients.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think a lot of business owners now are taking on that approach as well. It's more about attitude, isn't it? To want to learn and to progress in the company, rather than what you can, what skills you bring to the table. That's an addition. So for somebody maybe that's new to a digital marketing role, what things would you advise for them to be able to stay up in terms of the latest trends? Because obviously digital marketing is changing all the time, SEO is changing all the time. What do you recommend in terms of staying up to date?
I mean, your biggest tool is Google. There are websites like the Drum, IAB, WARC, WARC, even like Global Web Index, even websites like HubSpot, which give a lot of insight around digital marketing, Marketing Weekly, for example, the CIM, Chartered Institute of Marketing. Have these websites as bookmarks in your Google Chrome tab. YouTube, follow influencers around digital marketing, follow agencies in their YouTube channels where they're sharing visual contents of how to do things. Podcasts are on the rise. There's going to be over £1 billion of revenue from podcasts this year. We have a podcast, you have a podcast. That's what we're doing right now. People want to get information. They've come to this podcast to learn from an expert who's given their insights and, over the last few years to do it. And that's what we do. We have Bobble Pod, which we launched last year. You have your own. So podcast is another way. And how simple is it? You just add it to your Spotify, your Apple Play or Google Play, etc. Whatever platform you're going to do, you can even listen to it whilst you're training in the gym. Social media groups, especially on platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook, I'd follow some of them, especially around the brands I mentioned. I'd follow certain agencies out there that are quite big, that provide a lot of content, even local agencies. Follow them on social media, look at the content they're sharing. I mean, if anyone goes to our social media, you'll just get insights and trends and topics that we're sharing. It's never we're trying to sell. It's like, here's what we talked about on our podcast. Here's the latest updates from Google. Here's what something new happened with Facebook, etc. Follow those people on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, something you can do is hashtags. You can follow certain hashtags as part of your profile on LinkedIn. So if you really want to get into digital marketing, then type in particular hashtags around Google, digital marketing, social media, and then you'll start seeing more content relevant to those hashtags based on what comes within your, LinkedIn feed.
Yeah, that's a great answer, that, Manny, for staying up to date. It's difficult, isn't it? But like you say, it's obvious. Google is one of the best platforms for that, isn't it? Doing your own research, making sure the methodologies in terms of marketing and keeping up to date with trends. So that's great. For the next question then, and this is the sort of the final question, Manny, before we sort of wrap up and ask if there's any questions. For a small to medium-sized enterprise, small business, medium business, what are the signs that you need to start investing in digital marketing, and whether that's working with an agency or hiring somebody internally, at what stage does that cross their path?
It has to be now. Every company needs a website. If you don't tell people about or drive them to your website to learn more about what it is you're doing and how you can offer value to their business or value to customers, then you need to start straight away. It sounds a bit of all right, that seems simple, but now just look at how the landscape's changed because of the pandemic and retailers having to shut down. The businesses impacted. Who are the businesses have benefited? Those that are online, those that can implement a digital strategy, which is why the growth within digital agencies is so good right now. If you can be quite effective in terms of the model you're approaching. If you're a company and you're not doing digital marketing, you're going to get left behind. Because sometimes you might rely and say, oh, yeah, we've got a great brand, we rely on our word of mouth, but there's such a thing as digital word of mouth as well. So relying on building that up in the same way. So it depends on what your objective is or where you are. You can even do little things as like organically do posting across social media and LinkedIn. But I'd say start now. Start researching and start looking into it now. Don't leave it till tomorrow or, a few months down the line and wait for it. Start looking at building. And the key thing to focus on right now is a strategy. Understand where your business is and how you can use online to improve your, revenue flow, your revenue funnel, your, client funnel, your lead funnel, sales funnel, all these elements. Have a look at it and see, what can we do? And all the data is there. If you have a website and people are buying from you, all the way data is there. If you are predominantly just a local business, let's say like a hairdresser, then you need to be looking at how you can engage with those same customers who will come back to you, but are spending most of their time now on mobile and social media. So if you're a business that's stuck, then you need to be using your free time to engage with your existing customers and remind them you're still there and that you will be there when the lockdown ends. So it's literally now, or basically if you never do it, then unfortunately when your business is around in a few years' time, it'll come down to the fact that you didn't utilize the digital tools available to you to increase your awareness.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you, Manny, for your time. Anyway, it's been really good to have you on the podcast. For like obviously for people that are watching and thinking about it's time to start investing in digital marketing. How can they contact you? And what socials are you on? And where can they find you?
Our website is www.bobbledigital.com. We're Leeds based. So on there, we've got links to our, Bite Size, which is our monthly free networking where we give bite-sized information and we let businesses network. We've got a Bobble Pod, which is on YouTube, as well as, you know, all the main podcast platforms out there, which is at bobblepod.co.uk. Or just connect with us on social media and follow our content, or reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, obviously, and you do post some good stuff, Manny. So yeah, but thank you very much for your time. Is there anything you want to add, Manny, before we finish up?
No, I think for anyone listening, especially students that, you know, jumped into are listening right now, I'd say if you really are focused about, you know, following digital marketing, you know, use the tips I gave about, you know, where you can get information from. Start following local companies, have a look at what they're doing, have a look at brands you like, and start looking at what they're doing online in terms of how they're engaging. You know, I like Gymshark, and then when they change it to Home Shark, that's just simple but effective tools and stuff like that. So if you have, you know, if you're trying to get into it, look at what your favorite brands are doing online, and that's a good place to potentially start. But I'd like to say, you know, thank you for inviting me along. I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the questions that were, you know, sent through to task me, and I hope that everyone listening has, you know, had some value from it.
Nice one. I didn't get a chance to attend your physical bite-size events with the free samosas, but I am a big fan of samosas and Indian food. So when's your next one on? Obviously, the lockdown has been. There's been an announcement now, hasn't there, when lockdown's going to end? So are you guys planning on doing like physical events again, or are you going to stick to
the earliest we'll do a physical event will be September. We normally take a break in August, so if it ends in June, then we'll see where we are maybe for a July relaunch. But realistically, I think September is when we'll get back to physical events. We won't be moving into new offices until probably June, July, even August as well. Later on in the year. So that's our timeline, really. We're just taking it easy. Everything can be done online for now for us. As much people are missing the, you know, samosas as part of our breakfast networking, as well as the other stuff. So, you know, they're just going to have to wait that a little longer.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you very much for your time, Manny. And I hope you guys that have been watching at home have enjoyed yourself and got some bits of information that you can take and use for yourself in your own strategy and your own businesses. And yeah, that's everything from us. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Carl.
Cheers, Manny.